In 2020 and 2021, there was a huge data analytics boom, and it seemed like everybody was getting a job as a data analyst. They were learning a little bit of SQL, a little bit of Tableau, and then boom, breaking into data, making six figures in a fully remote role with unlimited PTO. And that felt like the norm. And that was at least the narrative that a lot of people on social media were selling. You can break into data making a six-figure salary completely remote if you learn a little bit of SQL and a little bit of Tableau. But now it's 2025 and times have changed. Entry-level data analytics roles are a little more saturated. The job market, to be honest, is pretty bad. So it's a little harder to become a data analyst, but it's still absolutely way worth it to become a data analyst in 2025. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why it's worth it to still pursue a career in data analytics in 2025 and give you a step-by-step guide on exactly how to get there. If you want a detailed guide that clearly breaks down every step of the way to learn the right skills, portfolio, and network to become a data analyst in 2025, be sure to check out my data analytics roadmap below. I'm Jess Ramos. I'm a senior data analyst in tech and the founder of Big Data Energy. And I make content on data analytics and SQL here on YouTube and on Instagram, LinkedIn, and in my newsletter. All of those links are down below. And please subscribe for more so you can see the rest of my content. All right, let's get into it. Why should you still become a data analyst in 2025, even if it's not super easy to do like it used to be in 2020 and 2021? Well, to be honest, nothing worthwhile is ever easy. So if it's the challenge that's like intimidating you and keeping you out, just get rid of that. Get rid of that because you're going to be able to do it if you really want to do it. And I'm going to break it down every step of the way. So don't be intimidated by the challenge. I promise it's hard, but it's worth it. I mean, if it were really that easy to be a data analyst, I mean, literally everybody would do it. And everybody's not doing it because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes practice, and most importantly, perseverance and dedication because it's not easy. But I promise once you get there, it's worth it. Okay, so why is it worth it? Well, data analytics is a field that is needed in every single business domain and industry. So no matter what your background is, marketing, sales, healthcare, teaching, you name it, there is a data analyst role with your name on it. Data analytics is used in literally every field of business, every industry. So you can leverage any background that you have and go into a data analytics role. And there's tons of options. You can move across industries into different business domains. Like there's truly a place for everyone in data analytics. Data analytics is also a field with high career mobility. You can go down the individual contributor track or the IC track. You can be a data analyst, senior data analyst, lead, staff, and just develop your technical expertise. This is the track I've decided to go down. Or you can go down the managerial track and move up to manager, senior manager, director, VP, executive. I mean, there's just so many different ways to really move up really highly in data analytics and really just explode your salary. And to be honest, once you get 1 or 2 years of experience, it's way easier to get roles after that. And like the sky is the limit when it comes to salary, benefits, and expertise. So tons of career growth opportunities, write that down. And then of course, we also have like the sexy side of data analytics. So yes, you can get a big fat data analyst tech salary and you're more likely to get a remote role as a data analyst as opposed to a field that is like more required to be in office all the time. Because let's face it, data analytics and engineering roles, it's like, I think a lot of companies are okay with us working from home, but of course a lot is changing in 2025. So we'll see. So now that I've convinced you, hopefully, that it's still worth pursuing a career in data analytics, I'm going to tell you exactly how to get there. And there are 3 main pillars that you need to focus on. 1, skills. 2, portfolio. And 3, network. Skills, portfolio, network. Those are the 3 areas that you need to focus on. Number 1 is skills. This is by far the most meaty pillar, but I'm going to break down all the different skills that you need to know. The first skill that I'm going to talk about is definitely the most important hands down, and that is SQL. You've probably heard of it. SQL is a coding language that is used to query the database. It stands for Structured Query Language, and it's basically our way of communicating with the database. So we can go into the database and say, hey, I need this data, take this out, bring this in, transform it, clean it, wrangle it, reshape it, and here's how I want the data. So we're able to make all those modifications and transformations by using SQL. And since it's the main way of communicating with the database and getting the data that we need, it's something that pretty much every company uses because all companies have databases and they need highly skilled experts that can get the right data out and do the right things to it to prepare the data for analysis. So SQL is a really important skill that's going to help you stand out on the job market. A lot of companies are hiring for SQL skills, but not only that, SQL is the skill that you're most likely to be tested on in interviews. That's right. A lot of companies will either give you a take-home assignment or a live coding interview in SQL because they want to test your SQL skills and make sure you're actually the real deal and know what you're doing in SQL. So this is definitely an area that you want to double down on and make sure you learn it super well, not just a little bit. If you want to get started in SQL, I have a completely free SQL course. I'll put the link below. I'll teach you all the basics. All 31 lessons are completely free, and it will take you from complete newbie all the way to the very bottom of the intermediate level in only about 5 hours. Even if you've never coded before, basic SQL is pretty easy to learn. You can get a good grasp of basic SQL in only a few hours, but where a lot of people mess up is they don't take it a step further into the intermediate level. They learn just a little bit and they expect that this tiny bit of SQL is going to just, boom, get them a 6-figure job in data analytics, and then they're shocked when they can't get a job with just a few lines of code. But the reason why is because you have to learn SQL on a deeper level. You need to know more intermediate concepts like CTEs, subqueries, window functions, unions. I mean, there's so many things that you can do in SQL that will just skyrocket your skills and take them to the next level. So I highly recommend you learn them on an intermediate level and you don't just stop at basic, because that's how you're going to pass your live coding interviews and actually stand out amongst all the other people out there who just know a little bit of SQL. And of course, once you learn intermediate SQL, the most important thing you can do is to practice your skills on real projects, like beginning to end projects, to actually exercise those skills, get stuck, Google, work through challenges, and then display those projects in your data analytics portfolio, because that is the closest thing that you're going to get to real world experience. And I do have an intermediate SQL course as well that teaches you all the most important intermediate skills based on my experience as a senior data analyst in tech. And I also give you 2 entire projects at the end that I guide you through that you can put in your data analytics portfolio. I'll put the link to that along with my free beginner course below. Of course, SQL is a really important skill for data analytics, but what do you do with the data once you pull it out of the database and prepare it? A lot of times you just do immediate calculations and that's the end of the road for your analysis, but more often than that, you're gonna have to pull in that query that you just wrote, that result set that you just created, into a business intelligence tool or a BI tool to do data visualization. Data visualization is the next big skill you need to be a data analyst, because data visualization is taking all those queries and those data sets and turning them into something that business stakeholders can actually use. Think about it. A lot of people that work in business are not data people. You have sometimes marketing people or sales people or executives or people who aren't working with data every single day, but they still want to make data-driven decisions and get insights from data to drive their department forward. How are they going to do that if they don't know how to use SQL or use the data in the database? As a data analyst, you become the translator between the non-technical stakeholders and the data in the database. And a big way that we're able to do that is through data visualization. So by choosing the right charts and colors and formats and telling a story with the data, we're able to pass that off to business stakeholders so that they can use the data and glean insights to make data-driven business decisions. A lot of times business stakeholders are flying blind or just trusting their gut. Not anymore, because when you're a data analyst, you're going to give them all the data that they need to make educated, data-backed decisions. A big way that data analysts do this is through creating dashboards. Dashboards are a collection of different charts or tables or metrics or KPIs, key performance indicators, that business stakeholders can just look and get an overall view of how their department or their area of the business is doing. Think about a car dashboard. Honestly, I don't even know that much about cars, but I do know that I have my miles per hour, I have my gas gauge, my engine light. Honestly, that's my extent of car knowledge. But it's basically like a car dashboard. You can get an overall view of the car's health, and it tells you what to do next, what direction to go. That's exactly what a dashboard does for business stakeholders. It summarizes the data in a way where they can just look at it, make decisions, and see how things are going. For data visualization skills, you should learn either Power BI or Tableau. Those are the two most common tools in the industry, and it really does not matter which one you learn. Just pick one and stick with it. It's more important that you pick one tool and learn it deeply than to focus your time on two different tools or worse, more, and just learn a tiny bit in each one. Because if you're interviewing for a role that wants Power BI skills, but you know Tableau on a super deep level, you're going to easily be able to transfer those skills to Power BI and convince a hiring manager that you can easily learn Power BI because of your in-depth Tableau knowledge. But if you just know a little bit of each one, it's going to create a lot of chaos and confusion and doubt with the hiring manager. So do not go crazy learning Power BI and Tableau and blah, blah, blah. No, pick one and learn it deeply. On top of SQL and data visualization, there's one more required skill set that you need to be a data analyst, at least at the entry level, and that is math and statistics. And no, you don't have to be a mathematician to be a data analyst. I mean, thank goodness, but you do need to know at least some basic math to be a really good data analyst, because think about it. Everything we're doing as data analysts, coding, creating metrics, etc., all of that comes from math. So we need to actually know what's going on under the hood. You really need to focus mostly on statistics, so like descriptive statistics, so like max, min, average, standard deviation, variance, those like overall statistics, metrics. And then you also need to understand just like the distribution of different variables and how that can be affected by removing outliers or having null values, etc. And of course, the measures of central tendency are also super important. So like mean, median, mode, how those are all related and when to use which. And of course, it can be super helpful to learn some basic probability and logic as well, especially when it comes to coding. I mean, logic is really important to know, like Boolean logic, arithmetic operators, blah, 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 all that stuff. I know that was a lot of information on skills all at once, but there are two optional skill sets I highly recommend considering as well. But I'm also going to explain why they're not completely necessary if you don't have like the time or the bandwidth to spend a lot of time on them. Number one is Excel and Google Sheets. And you might be shocked to hear this because yes, Excel is actually even more popular in SQL than business because it's something that pretty much everyone could use, whether they're a data person or not. So honestly, Excel sheets are rampant in business. Like you're going to see so many Excel sheets and work in a lot of Excel sheets as a data analyst. A lot of times you're going to have stakeholders come to you and be like, here's this Excel sheet. I need XYZ, boom. And then now you're suddenly working in Excel. But the reason why I say don't spend too much time learning them and going crazy taking a bunch of courses is, number one, everybody knows how to use Excel and everybody has it on their resume. That's not something that's going to help you stand out on the job search as a data analyst like data visualization or SQL. You can learn all of those Excel skills in SQL and a BI tool, and that's going to take you way further on the job search. So having Excel courses and spending a bunch of time in Excel isn't really making you special or stand out. I'm sorry. And number two, Excel is something that you're rarely or almost never going to be quizzed on in an interview. I mean, there's not really such a thing as a live Excel interview or a take-home Excel assignment. I mean, no one wants to see your Excel projects, I promise. Whereas SQL is something you're most likely going to be quizzed on in the interview process and have to actually code in and do to actually get a job at a company. So you're not actually going to be asked about Excel. So just like say you know it and then just like Google it on the job as you need it. That's what I do. I mean, to be honest, I'm a senior data analyst in tech and I still barely know how to use Google Sheets and like literally Google it all the time. The other skill set that is definitely optional, especially if you're earlier on in your career as a data professional, is Python and R. Python and R are programming languages that are, heavier, but also more versatile than SQL. And to be honest, they're definitely a lot harder to learn than SQL. At least most people would probably agree with me on that. So they can definitely be a little intimidating to learn if you're newer to data and coding. So that's why I never recommend people start out in Python or R. Especially if you haven't mastered SQL yet, because why are you learning Python if you literally can't even pull data from a database? If you don't have SQL completely mastered on a solid intermediate level, you have no business learning Python. I'm sorry. And you also probably won't see very much Python or R in the interview process unless you're going for a more senior level role. So if you're ready for the senior level, then yeah, maybe start learning some Python and expanding your coding skills. But if you're going for an entry level role, like literally stick to the basics and get really good at SQL. But if you are going to learn Python or R, I highly recommend you learn Python because that is what the industry is moving towards and that's what most companies are using. So I'm sorry, R. All right, now we're done with our first pillar, which is skills. I know that was a ton of information at once, but don't be scared. I promise that is by far the most in-depth, meatiest, beefiest pillar. Now we're gonna go to our second pillar, which is portfolio. So what do you do when you learn all these new skills? I mean, do you just throw them on your resume and hope for the best? No. That's not going to work in this market because hiring managers have so many options of who to hire. So a portfolio is something that's going to take you to the next level and really help you stand out. Because a lot of people won't take the time to make a portfolio, but you will. And that's going to help you show off your skills and give you something to talk about in interviews, especially if you don't have any real world experience. That's what makes the first data analytics job so hard to get. You don't have real world experience yet, but your projects in your data analytics portfolio are going to be the closest thing to real world experience that you can show off in interviews and talk about with the hiring manager. And there's no magic number of how many projects and what types you should have. So when you hear people say you should have 3 SQL projects and 2 data visualization projects, they don't know what they're talking about because there's no magic formula to building a portfolio. If you can show off the skills in 1 or 2 projects, then good for you. Kudos. Why do you need 8, 10 projects in your portfolio? No hiring manager is going to take the time to go through that many projects. So my advice is to keep it pretty simple. I would say definitely no more than 3 projects on your resume, max. Of course, you can have more in your portfolio just as backups and other things you've worked on, but you really only need 2 or 3 on your resume. One of the most important things that you can do in a data analytics project is to show all of your skills working together. So instead of keeping your skills in isolation and saying, this is a SQL project, this is a data visualization project, mix them together into one big project. Showing how you can combine your SQL knowledge and your data visualization knowledge and put them together into one project to solve a business problem, that's going to be super powerful because that's exactly what you'd be doing in the real world. In the real world, you're not really working in isolated tools or isolated skills. You're mixing a bunch of things together and weaving them together to solve a business problem. And that brings me to my next big advice on portfolios. They need to all be business problem focused. So you can't just throw in your links, throw in your data sets, throw in your codes and just leave them. You need to show and communicate how you solve the business problem. And you're going to do that by showing your original business problem, all the skills and methods you use to solve that problem. And then you're going to clearly communicate your results and how you found a solution for the problem, and then provide further business recommendations. And you're going to communicate all of this information and build all of this stuff in a GitHub repository for every single project you do. I go over this way more in depth and show you how to do it in my intermediate SQL course. Link below if you're interested. And yes, I do believe your projects should just be in GitHub. A lot of people sell these fancy websites and, oh, you should do all this fancy stuff. We're not going for a marketing, graphic design, website developer role. We're going to be a data analyst. So why should we have to build a whole front end for our projects? You don't need to do all of that. Just put them in GitHub, organize them, and have a different repository for every project, and you're good to go. All right, that was our second pillar, portfolio. Our third pillar is network, which is honestly kind of one of the worst parts of working in business, having to network and go to all these events and put yourself out there, especially if you're shy or introverted. It can be super intimidating. I mean, I can't relate to being shy or introverted, but I can definitely relate to struggling to make business connections and pretending to be professional. That can be really hard to do and kind of scary. But it's absolutely vital because if you're not networking online on LinkedIn and at in-person events, you're going to miss out on key connections that can really help you out throughout your career. One of my favorite ways to network is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a huge up-and-coming social media platform. It used to just be a place where people stored their resume, but not anymore. There's people out there making amazing content in all sorts of different fields and industries, myself included. I post content there every single day on data analytics because it's a place where I've really enjoyed sharing my knowledge and my stories, and just posting every day has gotten me so much visibility. I've really exploded my career and I've gotten so many amazing opportunities because of it. And so many people have seen my posts and DM'd me. I get so many recruiters in my DMs trying to get me to apply for their jobs, and I've met lifelong friends and business connections. So if you're not using LinkedIn and posting and commenting and engaging with other people and asking people for coffee chats, you're seriously missing out. So if you're not active on LinkedIn, your homework is to go get active on LinkedIn, clean up your profile, and start just engaging and making connections with other people. And once you start building and fostering those relationships, you can start asking people for coffee chats. If they're local, you can meet up in person. Of course, be careful meeting up with strangers from the internet. But anyways, or you can also meet on Zoom. That can be a really great way to learn more about the field of data analytics and also, make those connections. Maybe they're hiring at some point in the future, or they're willing to refer you for a job within their company. Pretty much all of my jobs and career opportunities have come from me being active on LinkedIn, and I've just made so many friends. So for real, do not underestimate the power of LinkedIn. Because when it comes down to it, you can have the best skills and the best portfolio, but if you're not being at the right place and the right time and meeting and talking to the right people, it's going to be that much harder for you to get a job. So if you have the skills and the portfolio and you're putting yourself out there, meeting people and being engaged in the industry, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get a job. So do not sleep on LinkedIn. Literally start getting active on LinkedIn and networking before you even finish the skills and the portfolio. And of course, if you live in a big city with lots of opportunities, you can also go to in-person networking events and conferences. Those are great too. I personally don't live in a place to where I can really do that a lot. So a lot of my networking is done online, or I travel to go to conferences, which is also a good option. And that concludes the main 3 pillars that you need to focus on to be a data analyst. We have skills, portfolio, and network. And of course, I do have a data analytics roadmap that goes more in depth into each of these and guides you through the entire process and includes a checklist to make sure you're on the right path. I'll put the link to that below. I hope I've motivated you and gotten you so excited to become a data analyst in 2025. I promise you, you can do it. I know it sounds like a lot, but I promise it's totally possible and you've got this. Tell me your favorite part of the video below and don't forget to subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.